Alright, what's going on, guys? It's XLT here, bringing you another video on my channel. And now today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. It's still going to be related to football and all that, but we're not going to be focusing on college football or the Versus series or mock drafts or anything like that. Today we're going to be looking at the championship matchups for this weekend. At the time I'm recording this video, the Patriots and Jags game is about to start because it's about 2 o'clock right now, so I think it starts in like a half hour or so. Yeah, I can't remember the exact time, but so that game's first. That's the early game, 2:30, I think. Jags Pats, and then the later game is the Vikings Eagles. And now starting out in the AFC, I want the Jags to win so bad. They deserve it. I just think that their play this season has been insane. People talk a lot about Blake Bortles and how the Jags need to get rid of him. He's not a franchise quarterback, blah blah blah. But he's kind of in a similar situation that Joe Flacco was a few years back. I think in 2012 when he won that Super Bowl. I'm not entirely sure. I think that's pretty close. That's probably it, honestly. But he's in a similar situation like that. His defense has won him a lot of games. He has contributed a good amount to those wins. He's got 21 touchdowns and 13 interceptions, which is about, the same numbers that Joe Flacco put up in that year, or throughout his entire career. Joe Flacco's been a pretty below average quarterback, I'd say, but he's getting paid like a superstar, which probably shouldn't be happening, but that's neither here nor there. I think that Blake Bortles' play, if it's more than adequate, the Jags can win this game. Because I think their defense is probably one of the best in the NFL. They've got guys on the edge like Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue. Their defensive line is just insane. I don't even have to list the guys because you know who they are. Marcel Darius and Malik Jackson are two beasts on the inside. The linebackers are really good. Miles Jack is coming into his own this year after being a question mark in last year's draft. Telvin Smith, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. People don't appreciate him enough for what he does and his impact on the field for that team. And as well, Paul Posluszny is a good guy in the middle to have. He's just, a veteran leader and a tone setter and stuff like that on that defense. Actually, no, I think the tone setter is probably Jalen Ramsey now that I think about it. But just talking about the corners, they've got one of the better cornerback duos in the NFL with Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye. I don't want to hear anything about Arizona or Denver. It's not Chris Harris Jr. and Talib. Talib's washed. And Chris Harris Jr. is kind of underrated, but he's kind of getting old. But that's the best cornerback tandem in the NFL with Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye. And then on the back end, you have Barry Church, who's a hard-hitting safety, and Tayshaun Gibson, who's just a ball hawk, to say the least. But, yeah, those guys are pretty good on that defense for Jacksonville, and I think that's why they have the ability to win this game. Also, they've got a confidence and a swagger about themselves on that team where they think that if they go out and they ball and they give their all to the game, that they can beat absolutely anybody. Like, I think that they have just an attitude about themselves where if they think that they can win, they're probably going to win. Like, I would put money on it that if Jalen Ramsey says we're going to the Super Bowl and we're going to win that, what he said on that interview on the field after the game, I think that they believe that. And I think that if they believe that they can go out and do it. Their run game is also very good. You saw in that game against the Steelers, Leonard Fournette put up like I want to say it was like 118 and 3 touchdowns, which is absolutely insane, especially against that Pittsburgh front seven, which is a pretty good front seven. They've got guys like Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward, Javon Hargrave, Bud Dupree. They're pretty good. Ryan Shazier not being there is a huge gap that they might have to fill in this upcoming season, but you never know with that. But we're not here to talk about the Steelers. We're talking about the Jags and the Pats. I think their overall talent is just better than the Patriots. I mean, Tom Brady is pretty much that team. He's kind of in the Aaron Rodgers situation, but I think he's more of a, I just think he's had like lesser weapons than Aaron Rodgers has had. Aaron Rodgers has had guys like in the past, like Greg Jennings and Donald Driver and Randall Cobb and Jermichael Finley. And then again, Rob has had Gronk and Randy Moss. Those are two that come to mind. Julian Edelman. But, I just think that the overall talent of the Jacksonville Jaguars is a big factor. Their defenses, in terms of just skill positions, I think match up way better against the Patriots than the Patriots match up against them. So, yeah, that's who I have winning that game, Jags versus Patriots. I'm taking Jags. I'm confident. Not going to put money on it, though. If somebody wanted to bet me, I probably wouldn't put money on the Jags, but I'll give them my vote. I'll give them my prediction. So moving over to the NFC, we have the Vikings versus the Eagles, which is kind of an interesting game. I don't think the Vikings should be here. I really wanted the Saints to win that game. I think that they have probably been one of the better teams in the NFL with that insane running back duo of Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, and who I think is probably a top 5 corner in the NFL this season. Marshawn Lattimore has been playing like an absolute maniac. He's been playing out of his mind. Nobody thought he was going to be this good. People thought Garyon Conley, who was another Ohio State cornerback, probably had more potential than Marshawn, but I think that Marshawn's probably a top 5 corner in the NFL this season because it's the only season we have to judge him off of. But I just think that they killed the draft. The Saints got Ryan Ramczyk, who's a top-tier offensive tackle in the NFL in terms of how he's graded on Pro Football Focus. He's like an 86.6 or something like that. That's not exact numbers, so don't quote me. But they got Ryan Ramczyk and Marshawn in the first, and then they got I think they got Kamara in the third, and they also got Trey Hendrickson, who's a pass rusher, and they also got who else did they get? Alex Anzalone out of Florida, but he's had injury issues, or else he'd be a pretty good linebacker. But nonetheless, I think that the Saints should have won that game. P.J. Williams had a great rookie season, made one bad play, and people, that's what they're going to remember him by for the rest of his career, sadly, no matter what he does. But, like I said, the Vikings and Eagles are playing in this game. I've said a lot about the Saints, even though they're not even in this game. But I think out of this game between the Vikings and the Eagles, that the Vikings will win. I think this because of their defense and their quarterback play are probably two of the biggest factors that I can think of, just in terms of how they're going to win this game. Like I said with the Jags, their defense, I think the Vikings defense is probably the best overall defense in terms of statistics and like where they place in the NFL, in the pass and in the run game and stuff like that. They've got guys like Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr, who's probably one of the more versatile players in the NFL. He can get after the passer, and he can drop back and cover pretty much anybody you want him to. They've also got guys like Danielle Hunter, who's a pretty good second-year player. I can't remember where he's from. But then they've also got Everson Griffin, who's one of the better pass rushers and run stoppers in the NFL. They got guys like Sharif Floyd, Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, who, in my opinion, is the best defensive player in the NFL. People don't really see his stats as they don't really jump off the page or anything like that, but he plays such a versatile role in that Vikings defense. He plays inside the box, he plays cover 3 deep, he plays cover 2 deep, he plays man. He's just such an important piece to that defense, and I think that he's really what makes them go. And so I think that that's a big contributor to why they can win this game. Their defensive play is just, I think, probably better than the Eagles offense, who has proven to be pretty stagnant in the last couple weeks after scoring 0 against the Cowboys in the final regular season game and then only 15 against the Falcons defense. I mean, the Falcons defense is pretty good. They got guys like Keanu Neal, Deion Jones, Devondre Campbell, Grady Jarrett, Vic Beasley, stuff like that. Also, quarterback play is what I said could contribute to the Vikings win. Case Keenum's been one of the better passers in the NFL this season. Doesn't necessarily have the stats or the high touchdown numbers or anything like that, but he's had one of the better passer ratings and completion percentages, if I'm not mistaken, in the NFL this season, which is pretty good for a guy who's been pretty much a journeyman his entire career, playing for the Texans, the Rams. Who else? I don't know if he played for anybody else. The Texans, Rams, and Vikings. I think that might be just it, but he hadn't really had a chance to start under a good offense and a good scheme with talent around him in the last couple years, but he finally got his chance this year, and I think he's really shown that, yeah, I can be a good quarterback. I can be an elite level quarterback. Maybe he'll be a one and done year. I'd hate to see that happen to where he just blows up this year and the next year he's not really anything. That would hurt some people's fantasy feelings because I know that a lot of people had him on fantasy, but that would also hurt him in real life probably. But I think that if he plays good enough, which I think he can and which I think he will, that they can win this game. I also think that a big factor that will go into this game is riding the high from last week. They had one of the best that had to be one of the best playoff games that I've ever seen in my entire life. And I watched Super Bowl 49 and Super Bowl 51 start to finish pretty much. So just saying that game was absolutely insane. Drew Brees did what he needed to do. He went down, got a field goal with like 40 seconds left. That should be enough time for your defense to just play cover 3. The Vikings didn't even have any timeouts left. Saints should have just played man up, 3 deep, just drop everybody, don't rush, just spy the QB, don't just like man up everybody, just like prevent defense, just play prevent defense is all they had to do. PJ Williams did miss a tackle, but that's just gonna happen sometimes. People miss tackles and give up touchdowns all the time, but that just happened to be the biggest touchdown that the Vikings needed of that entire season. So I think if they can ride the high of the Minnesota Miracle, as everybody's calling it, if they can take that momentum and that effort and that enthusiasm and then just rallying behind their city, because I've seen so many videos on Instagram and Twitter and the internet of people doing skull chants like all over Philly, and they went to the Rocky statue and put Vikings gear all over the Rocky statue. Now, if that doesn't motivate you as a football player, that your city is that confident in you and that your city is that behind you, then I don't know what does. So I think if they can take their city's heart and passion for them and put it into this game, that I think that they can defeat the Eagles. I don't want to write the Eagles off entirely, though, because their run defense and their defense in general is very, very good. I don't know how the Patriots do it. Actually, I do know how the Patriots do it every year. They've got Tom frickin' Brady, but their defense always seems to be subpar every time that they go into these championship games. They always seem to be the lesser defense and stuff like that, and you expect them to give up a ton of points, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But, I just think that every defense in these championship games is probably good except the Patriots, and that's kind of due to Dante Hightower's injuries and some guys on the D-line's injuries. But like I said, those are my picks. I've got the Jags versus the Patriots. I'm taking the Jags. Vikings versus the Eagles, sorry. I'm taking the Vikings. So I guess you could say my Super Bowl prediction is going to be the Vikings versus the Jags. Couldn't have seen that coming at the start of the season. I can tell you that right now. I think towards the beginning of the season, I thought it was going to be Pats Seahawks again, or Pats Packers again. Not again, but Pats Packers for the first time. But yeah, I definitely couldn't have seen these championship matchups coming, or possibly these Super Bowl matchups coming. At least the one that I picked, which would be the Jags Vikings. But yeah, that's going to be the video, guys. Leave comments down in the comment section below whether you think that I'm right or that I'm wrong. You can agree with me, disagree with me. I don't care. I might respond, start a little argument or debate with you down in the comment section. But yeah, like I said, that's the video. Like and subscribe. Gonna be more content like this coming out, especially on Super Bowl Sunday. Probably doing another video like this. But yeah, this has been XLT signing out.